As a church, we're going through a series starting this week on actually this is the last of the Real Questions series this week, and it's kind of a prelude to going through our mission statement over the next many of the weeks in September, two of which you'll be singing for. And it is about the church. I don't know if you subscribe at all to the Facebook page, the Grace Baptist Facebook page, but David usually gives a little teaser about what the sermon's about, and he asks a very common, or he makes a very common statement in light of the fact that a lot of people will say, I love Jesus, I love God, I really don't like the church. And they think that that's an honorable thing because it's just full of, hypocrites and problems and people who bicker and all the stuff that go with it. So the question is, can you truly be the Christian that God calls you to and not need the church, not want to be a part of it? And so that's where we're kind of going. And for all the new people that have come into choir this season, and there's about 10 or 11 of them, not all of them are here tonight, but I speak to each one of them to be able to say, I treat you like a church. You're bigger than many churches in America. And you sing a lot better than But what I make that statement because I truly believe that God, as somebody prayed earlier, placed each one of you here in a very specific, for a very specific reason, and he's a lot smarter than I am, so I'm not sure why. But I do know that every one of you carries a special gift. Every one of you has a role that he wants you to play here. So I'm looking forward to watching that unfold. And to me, it's really the richness of what a group like this is. Lisa Hernacki gave me an analogy that I really resonated with, because Robin and I spent most of our time when we were raising our boys, and they liked us. At least cared to call. Sorry. We spent all of our time camping, and most of the time we camped in the redwoods. And if you've ever walked through a redwood grove, it's an interesting experience because you see some of these gigantic trees that are just reaching up to the sky, full of health. But in the same grove, oftentimes you'll see some that are split. Sometimes you'll see some that are kind of bent over. Sometimes some that have fallen completely. Some of them are kind of gnarly. Some of them have been hit by lightning and they're scarred. Some of them covered with moss. And if you looked at just a tree, you would probably notice some things about that. But when somehow God takes all of that, whether it's young or old trees or bent over or standing straight trees, and creates this thing of beauty that you walk through and you feel the serenity of it and you feel the peacefulness of it and you sense the beauty of it, and it's so like the church. Because you got young and an old, you've got people who are standing tall and some are bent over, you've got people who've fallen. You've got people who are covered with stuff from life. You've got people who are scarred. And if you just kind of look at a person in the midst of that, sometimes you kind of miss the point. Because together, it creates something special. And so my hope is that we could see a group like this really more as kind of the forest, full of trees. And not every tree is going to look the same. But because of the way God has fashioned every single one of you, it makes something beautiful out of the whole thing. And it's something that we need to be careful of because, and James knew it well, when people come into the church, oftentimes you're drawn to the more comely ones, the ones who are maybe a little bit more charismatic, the ones who are a little bit maybe more attractive by whatever world standards attractive beings. Sometimes the wealthy. And in fact, he said, have you not then made distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts. Listen, brothers, has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, which he has promised to those who love him? The bent over trees, sometimes the ones that are scarred, those are just as precious in God's eyes, and they're just as important to the entirety of the picture of what God's trying to do in the church, right? That's what Samuel said. Well, the Lord said to Samuel, don't look on the appearance, when he was trying to pick which one was supposed to be king. You remember that, right? And he said, people look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And I think when you look around this room, you see so many different people, you can't see their hearts. But my hope is that within the course of this season, you will find the hearts. You will start looking for those hearts. In addition to that, what's more important, I think, in my mind too, is that we need to recognize that each of us have been shaped oftentimes by the difficult times in life, the scars, if you will. The scars have defined us. Some of us are young enough that we still look like that young tree that's still just kind of trying to reach up and get through the canopy so that they can catch the light like the big ones do. But a lot of us aren't that way. In fact, most of us aren't that way. Most of us carry scars that define us. Of course, our Lord is defined in some ways by his scars. But in the same way, they give identity to who we are. I came across this poem, which I thought was very interesting. And I don't know who the author is. Somebody that just identified, I believe it's herself, as Lovah. Anyway, it says this. Hey, Mom, did you see these scars on me? Well, these scars don't make me weak. I've been through hard times and good times, and I have these to prove it. So the fact is, life is not easy. We never expected it to be. So why shed a tear for these scars? Because without them, I would not have made it this far. And here's where I believe the purpose of these scars really shines through. For every scar, a new story to tell. For every story, a heart to touch. For every heart, another life to build. And for every life, a new reason to smile. I am wounded and rebuilt at the same time. I love my scars. I think that captures for me something pretty important for the church. Recognize that we have people around us who are scarred. People around us who look different and act different and all that kind of thing, but together we make this beautiful forest. I want you to see the forest through the trees. Right? I want you to see the trees, but I want you to see that God does something special with that. And in that, I believe that it's the very reason why Paul said, that as the Lord said to him, my strength is perfected in your weakness. When you are weak, or when he is weak, then when I'm weak, then he is strong. And so my hope is that Grace is a safe place for all of you, that Grace is a place where you feel that you can come with your scars and all. And somehow, because of the way God very carefully builds a forest, whether it be a redwood grove or a forest of people, it creates something beautiful, something that's unique, and something that is diverse. And I believe it's really the scars that creates that diversity, that creates that sense of uniqueness and variety, that gives life its color and gives life its focus. So, with that in mind, keep focused on what the church really is, and help to see people, whether they're bent over or standing straight, whether they're scarred or seemingly upright and smooth. We're all part of what God's doing. And I look forward to seeing what he's going to do together, because it's something divine, it's something kingdom, and that's where I want to be. A couple of people I want to introduce you to very quickly.